hope we didn't just give away everything you were going to say then, Liam.
No,
You've always got more to say.
A little bit of detail, Bev.
But these are shockers, aren't they?
These are pretty eye-watering numbers. Let's just go through them. I've got a little graphic here. So in April 2023, the single month of April, the UK government borrowed £25.6 billion. That's 25,000 million pounds. In April 2022, it was just 13.7 billion. So absolutely crazy.
That's
you could say,
shocking.
we were still borrowing lots of money in April 22 because of lockdown. Now lockdown's gone, and we've almost doubled the amount of borrowing. The debt interest that the government paid, the interest on national debt in April alone was 9.8 billion. We've got this massive stock of debt now. It's £2.5 trillion. 2,500 billion pounds, and the debt interest alone just for April 9.8 billion. What could 9.8 billion buy you? There you go. 20 hospitals.
Yeah,
20. That's the debt interest in 1 month. So when you hear journalists and politicians saying, you just need to spend more money, you just need to borrow more money. If you don't spend more money and borrow more money, Minister, you're horrible and you're nasty. That is the downside of borrowing lots of money. You're spending 10 billion quid a month on debt interest.
Don't spend more money, cut taxes. That's what they should do.
But they would say we can't cut the taxes because look at the hole in our finances. We need that money to plug this massive gap.
And so we go back to the mini-budget, don't we? So we go back to the Liz Truss quasi-Quatting view of the world.
But hang on a minute. Liz Truss and the idea that she was going to cause excess borrowing was what got her kicked out of 10 Downing Street.
Because back then you had energy price cap with unlimited, potentially, government support. You had wholesale energy prices, were at the moon. They're now much, much lower. They're now well lower, by the way, than they were before the war in Ukraine. So I don't know why our gas bills are so much higher.
When are they coming down?
Well, who knows? That's really a question, in my view, for the regulator. I'm amazed that the regulator isn't all over the energy industry, given that gas bills, utility bills are still so high. But look, let's just go back to this government borrowing thing, right? If you cut taxes, will that boost the economy? Will that lead the economy to expand? Will that lead entrepreneurs to do more things, try harder? Investment growth, will that raise the tax pie or will that lower the tax pie? That is the age-old debate of economics, and it seems that the government we currently had is wedded to the idea of spend more, tax more, borrow more. Government spending now, sorry to hit you with so many figures.
That's called Labour Party policy.
Government spending now is 44, 45, 46% of GDP. Pre-COVID, it was 39% of GDP. It went up to 53 during the year of lockdown. OK, completely exceptional. Furlough, business support loans, whatever you thought of them, that's what we did. That's history. Went up to 53% of GDP government spending. We're now, rather than going back to 39, 40 pre-lockdown, we're at 45, 46. We can't seem to shake off this massive government spending habit. And these are really, I've been doing this kind of stuff for 25, 30 years. These are the most shocking government borrowing numbers I've seen. Why? Because they're not government borrowing when we've just done a massive bank bailout. They're not government borrowing when we've just had, a once in a lifetime lockdown or an enormous crash. There's no emergency, and we're still borrowing.
So why, Liam?
I just think we're in a world. Well, you said it: higher benefit payments, higher public sector pay. I just think we're in a world where our political class, both Tories and Labour, think the answer to every single problem is spend more money. Interestingly, Keir Starmer is now slightly, at least his rhetoric. What will he do if he's in office when the trade unions attack him? But even he is saying now, maybe the NHS, maybe it's not all about more money. Maybe we do need a little bit of reform.
Well, maybe these NHS doctors who are demanding a 49% two-year pay deal, 49%, should look at these borrowing figures.
Well, I think we need to inject into the public debate a bit
10 hospitals a month?
A bit of 20 hospitals.
20 hospitals.
A bit of realism. It's all very well to stand at the dispatch box or write a newspaper column or go on a chat show saying, why isn't the government just spending more money? The downside is debt interest, financial reality. When you are spending the equivalent of 20 hospitals a month on debt interest, when you are spending the equivalent of 2p on the basic rate of income tax in a single month on debt interest.
Do you know what, though, I worry about, Liam, when I see these figures? Small and medium businesses They are always in my mind at the moment.
Because that's the background you and I are from, Bev. We are from that background.
Do you know who used
we
to
watched
be?
our parents run small businesses,
the
right?
Conservative Party, they used to be the party of small businesses. And we've got this push towards a top-down kind of economic system now. We know the big corporations are getting richer. They're doing really, really well. We're having the biggest transfer of wealth. And this just looks like a squeeze on everybody, the middle classes, the people working hard.
Let's consider that corporation tax rise that we've discussed a lot on this show. I discuss it a lot on GB News in general. I really think it's like...
Well, it's up from 19 to 25.
From 19 to 25%, a 6 percentage point rise. Now, Sunak and the Treasury mandarins will say, oh, it's OK, old boy, because we're giving you, full relief on your investments, right? Now, if you are a big business, you've got massive pockets, you've got international subsidiaries, you can afford to get some cash together in this climate because you're cash rich, you've got a strong balance sheet, you can borrow and you can take advantage of those investment allowances, right? If you're a small and medium-sized business just trying to keep the wolf from the door, dealing with massive energy bills, dealing with 6% taken off your margin by the government, at a stroke, then you can't afford to raise loads of cash. You haven't got a strong balance sheet. You can't take advantage of those investment allowances. So the idea that you massively hike the headline rate of corporation tax when you've just spent billions of pounds and borrowed billions of pounds during lockdown, keeping companies going, only to then hit them with massive corporation tax rises. So these small and medium-sized companies end up in grave danger of falling over. And these are the companies that employ 2/3 of the British public.
Now, Liam, a lot of people watching and listening will hear this with horror, but they're also thinking they can't barely afford to pay their weekly shopping bill. Finally, we thought it was happening last week. Remember we talked about the Walk of Shame? Downtown. All it was a picture stump for the Prime Minister.
So there was the Farm to Fork Summit. There was basically a love-in between...
It's a gimmick. But today, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, is meeting food manufacturers to help to talk to them about why food price inflation is still so high when prices appear to be falling around the world.
Again, this is something that we've been calling for here on GB News for weeks and weeks.
They're going to go into number 11, are they?
They're going to go into number 11.
Will we see them, or are they going in the
I have no idea. The Treasury press notices that I've seen are actually, the wording is pretty emollient. You get the feeling that the food retailers actually helped to write the press release, with all respect to the Treasury.
Why does that surprise me?
I don't know if that's true, but I just thought the wording was a bit warm and fuzzy and didn't really capture anything close to the public mood on this. In March, we had food price inflation of 19.2%. So food prices were 19.2% higher on average in March 2023 than March 2022, even though wholesale food prices around the world had gone down for the previous 11 months, according to the UN index. Now, food retailers, food processors would say, rightly, energy costs are up. It costs a lot of energy to process food. Labour costs are up. There's quite a lot of labour still involved in processing and packing food. So their cost base is up to some degree, but the actual food itself, the price of that is falling. So I find it amazing that a supposedly very competitive sector like food retailing is still showing 19.2% food price inflation. Now, of course, we've got inflation numbers coming out tomorrow. The April numbers come out tomorrow. I think the headline rate of inflation, as I've said for weeks and weeks now, will start with an 8. So we'll be down 10.1 to 8 point something, I reckon. We shall see. But the next number I look for when that press release comes out at 7 o'clock tomorrow, I'll be in the studio with Eamon and Isabel to discuss that. The next thing I look for will be the food price number. Because if the food price number is still in the high teens or even in the teens, when the headline rate of inflation itself is coming down sharply, then maybe this is a sort of preemptive thing. Maybe they know that the food price number is still going to be really high, so this is a bit of a rush job. And
this perversely, of course, affects families most of all food, particularly the poorer families, because your food bill...
They disproportionately spend a high proportion of their income on food, and on fuel. And on diesel and petrol, not least diesel, because people, running around in their vans trying to make a living.
I was in a taxi the other day, the taxi driver said, at last, diesel prices are coming down.
They are starting, but why is it taking so long? I have no idea.
I remind you what Matt Hancock said in 2017 when he talked about launching the 4th Industrial Revolution. If you don't like change, I don't have much good news for you. And we're right in the middle of it. We're in the maelstrom, aren't we, of a massive economic, social, political shift.
There's one little bit of good news.
Just tell us when they're going to build back better, please, because at the moment nothing's built, nothing's back and nothing's better.
There's one little bit of good news. just briefly, the IMF, right, last month...
The International Monetary Fund.
The IMF, where I used to work, who got
Yeah.
25 of the last 28 predictions about the UK have been too pessimistic. Last month, they were saying the UK economy in 2023 was going to contract, shrink by 0.3%. What are they saying now? We're going to grow by 0.4%.
Well, they're probably wrong.
Complete turnaround, complete reversal of the telescope in 1 month.